Yes. Okay. And let's move on then with Matt Hancock.
Indeed, Matt Hancock brought out, I think we're supposed to call them tropes now, aren't we? It's even been on Coronation Street. Anti-Semitic trope is what the young characters say to each other to anchor that idea in the population. Hancock got all the tropes in when bashing his former uh, fellow member of the Parliamentary Conservative Party, Andrew Bridgen. He asked a question in Parliament, and there it is, the disgusting and dangerous anti-Semitic, anti-vax, anti-scientific conspiracy theories spouted by a sitting MP this morning are unacceptable and have absolutely no place in our society. And he raised that during Prime Minister's questions, to which Kenny, our social media man, rose to the challenge and this morning asked Mr. Hancock directly below that gloating tweet, "Do you know what you're talking about, Matt?" The reference is to a newly published opinion piece in the comment section on our homepage by Iain Davis, who always comes up with the goods. Now, this, of course, is an opinion piece. As you can see from the title, it is time to stand up to those who contort the meaning of anti-Semitism. I know people might pick me up on the lack of inverted commas in that headline, but such is the sensitivity of it now that I went through it, removing any quotation marks around Holocaust and anti-Semitism for fear that people would cast a glance at it and say, huh, UK column is doubting the Holocaust. So instead I'm using italics for the term. I won't read all of what's on screen. We're getting to the pinch for time now. But that is the conclusion of Iain Davis's well-researched opinion piece. It's not the first time he's written on the definition of the Holocaust established by the powers that be and by those who genuinely advocate for the survivors of the Holocaust and in memory of them. Iain concludes those who flagrantly abuse the intended meaning of the term anti-Semitism do nothing but dishonor those victims. They should be thoroughly ashamed of their conduct. He's talking to you, Matt Hancock. But that would require some intellectual honesty and a sense of morality on their part. Do they possess either? For my own part, I would just say this is one of the most bathetic, not pathetic, but bathetic, bathos moments I've ever heard in the House of Commons, people being deplored for anti-Semitism for, let's remember what Mr. Bridgen said, for saying that I'm being told this is the worst since the Holocaust. Of course, any time after 1945, the worst crime in the interim is the worst crime since the Holocaust. If Mr. Bridgen is being told he's very bad and wicked for saying that, we're actually being told that nothing is number two crime. Everything else is three or below. There is no number two. There's only the Holocaust.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Alex. And we have a little bit of video here from GMB this morning.
Yeah, it seems quite appropriate. Let's watch it, listen to it, and then we can talk.
For a war that has led to the deaths of thousands of people and misery for countless people, based upon lies, from them to be jet-setting around the world, able to earn millions.
Which
afterwards.
politician would you like to write a book?
I'm not interested in their book.
In any? So
No,
you
I'm
don't
not
want any
interested.
politicians? Are there any politicians you like at all?
No.
Should politicians exist?
Yes, politicians
They should.
exist.
So you actually believe in
exist.
democracy?
Actually, do you know who I do like? I like Andrew Bridgen MP, because you can talk about the things that he said, but one thing I really admire about him is the fact that he puts his beliefs and what he believes to be true and what he believes to be right. He puts those.
Is Andrew Bridgen,
before...
who's been suspended as a Conservative MP for spreading lies about vaccines?
I personally don't think he's been spreading lies. I think he's been spreading many things that are true.
So what he said about the vaccines was true?
Well, there are many medical professionals, cardiologists that actually agree with what he said. So the debate isn't just one-sided, but the point
it depends what's in the book.
But the point is that too many of our elected representatives actually care more about their political career and the number of books that they can sell, rather than sticking to the truth, what they believe to be true, and representing their constituents. That's the point. Okay. And Boris Johnson, I'm afraid, is not one of those people who's more concerned about how
vaccine denying Andrew Bridgen is okay.
Yes, well, this conversation has gone in a direction I hadn't anticipated. So let me first of all get back in Ed Balls' good.
Well, there we are. It wasn't going in the right direction, and oh dear, I've got a problem. But that lady, I think, deserves a lot of credit because she stuck to her opinion. And of course, her opinion was not only her opinion, she was justified in saying what she did. But the desperation to shut her down, not to investigate what was actually said about matters to do with vaccines, we've got to shut the debate down. And this shows us again that control of the media is across the board. This isn't a decision that's been taken by one area of the media. We're seeing it across the board, and the control is obviously coming from an extremely high level.
Okay, let's end with a couple of and finalies. Debbie first.
Oh, well, I just like these. They made me chuckle a bit, bearing in mind the news from the Bidens and all of these documents that they've got stashed in the garage and next to the Corvette. So these two memes I thought were very, very good. The Bidens cook up a cunning plan to get rid of the evidence. And of course, the first one you can see Dr. Biden masked up. Of course, Joe isn't masked up, but they're having a garage sale and all the classified documents are in the boxes. And the other shot is of Dr. Biden, unmasked, burning all the censored papers in a frying pan on the hob. She won't be having a gas hob soon because I think carbon net zero, they'll be disappearing. But yeah, I just thought they were rather good.
I think that was actually spirit cooking, Debbie.
Oh, was it? Thank you. Thank you for that.
And Alex?
Makes more sense.
Yes, my and finally isn't even a joke. It's reality and something to be welcomed. Last night, Scotland was in a furore over the Westminster government's decision to countermand, to cassate, in some people's legal language, the Scottish Parliament's legislation on gender self-identification, which David has been covering. That was the hot news yesterday. Nicola Sturgeon jumped into the fray and called it a full frontal attack on our democratically elected Scottish Parliament, that monstrosity in front of which David spoke, and its ability, a grocer's apostrophe, to make its, another grocer's apostrophe, its own decision on devolved matters. The Scottish Government will defend the legislation, ampersand too lazy to type AND, stand up for Scotland's Parliament. If this Westminster veto succeeds, it will be the first of many. And this was retweeted by a lady who asked the usual slogan questions. I don't know with what sense of irony, but trans rights are human rights, which we often hear Scottish Greens and MSPs of the Scottish National Party saying, and asking the question, you yes yet, for those abroad. This is the code language used in Scotland and Wales now to ask people, why do you not support the national independence movement yet? And now, no less a figure than the Reverend Stuart Campbell, who runs the Wings Over Scotland blog, one of the three big hitters of the independence referendum first time round in 2014, quote tweeted that question, is he yes yet? He was one of the leaders of the whole movement. And he says, no, thanks entirely to you useless creeps and your rapists' charter, I'm the least yes I've ever been. Kelly Jane Keane last night, one of the bravest feminists I think we've ever had in Britain, with a worldwide following now, did say as well last night in the live stream that this is a big moment for people actually to be dissuaded from the whole of the Scottish and Welsh independence movements when they see what kind of sexual filth is being pushed by its advocates.
Yeah. Okay, well, Alex, Debbie, thank you very much for that. Thank you for joining us. Just say a few people having problems with the stream. There is no problem with the output from UK column. We know this because we check it. And so we encourage people who are having difficulty to check their own equipment, talk to your internet provider, because the problem is not the UK column end. And also say we're getting a very large amount of feedback now from members of the public about matters to do with vaccines and vaccine harms. We are doing our best to cope with that, but if there's a delay or you don't get an answer, it's not because we're not concerned about your plight. We certainly are. This is to do with capacity. And
well, we'll be back in a couple of minutes with some extra.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.